Calificas para ser legal. ¿Quieres saber? Solo llama al abogado Andrés Mejer.
Now I want to talk to you about education. So we talked about U-Visa fraud. Let me explain to you what U-Visa is. Now, it's meant to help law enforcement to take criminals from the streets. Immigrants typically are afraid to talk to the police. That means they tend to not report crime for fear that they will be arrested. This law will protect you and give you legal status for you and for your family. Now, there are 6 requirements. 1, you must be a victim of violent crime, like assault, sex abuse, domestic violence. 2, you have to have information about that crime. 3, you need to be helpful in the investigation or the prosecution of the crime. That means generally you got to talk to the police, and if you're asked to go to court, you need to go to court. 4, you have to have suffered severe emotional or physical harm. 5, you need to be a good moral person. That typically means, listen, if you murdered somebody, the fact that you helped them you help the police with an assault does not mean you're a good moral person. So they're going to look at you in the totality of the circumstances. They're going to look at the good, they're going to look at the bad, and then they're going to decide, do you deserve it? So if you have a significant criminal record, well, U-Visa may be your only option, but at the same token, it might not really be an option for you. So make sure you speak to a qualified immigration attorney before you file for anything. And the last requirement is a law enforcement certification from an agency that investigated the crime. So that could be the police, the prosecutor, or the judge, depending on the circumstances. If you talk to the police, you were a victim of a crime, let's say it was assault. You went to get your check cashed on a Friday, you got attacked, you called the police found the people who attacked you, they charged them with the crime, you were asked to go to court, you went to go to court, and they were found guilty or pled guilty. So the moment you have a decision by the judge, it's now no longer your opinion that you were a victim of a crime. A judge determined you were a victim of a crime. Now, it wouldn't get to the judge unless you had information, and they're not likely to get a conviction without your help. So the moment you have a conviction from a judge, you now have 4 of the 6 requirements already proven, or at the very least 3. It's not always obvious that you suffered emotional or physical harm. Sometimes you went to the hospital, sometimes you need to go to a psychologist. Every situation is different. Good moral person, well, you just look at your background. What criminal charges have you had, and what's your benefit to society? But the point of, when you get a conviction, because you spoke to the police, because there was a conviction, you also likely spoke to the prosecutor. So you automatically have 3 different agencies you could speak to: police, prosecutor's office, and the judge. If you reported a crime, but the individual was never found, not your fault. Or the individual was deported before the case was resolved, again, not your fault. Or you didn't show up in court. Well, now you can't really talk to the prosecutor or the judge because you never met them. You never spoke to them. You never appeared before them. And chances are there wasn't a conviction. So all you have left is the police, who may or may not help you. But if you were injured in a concussion, you were in the hospital for 2 weeks, and you did all that you could, well, that's a different story. Again, it depends. It's case by case. The benefits of a U-Visa is that you, your spouse, and your children under 21 will get the status for 4 years. After 3 years, you can apply for your green card. 5 years later, you can apply for your citizenship. Now, yes, it is taking now 4 years for the U-Visa to get approved. That's because they only issue 10,000 a year, and there have been more than 20,000 people applying each year for the past couple of years. But once you are in processing, you generally are protected from deportation. U-Visa includes a waiver that forgives minor crimes, orders of deportation, and even illegal entry into the United States. It forgives even significant crimes, but again, that goes to good moral person. The worse your past conduct, the more egregious your pain and suffering kind of needs to be in this context for the U-Visa, because they're going to balance the good and the bad. and then they're going to make a decision as to whether you deserve to get it. If you have no criminal record and there's a conviction, more often than not, you get approved.